Eureka Conservative Podcast, coming to you from a very cold and, well, not wet yet, but it feels like it's going to get wet, but very cold and windy Melbourne. So when you're 2 doors from the bay, it can get very, very windy. So back on our Tuesday nights. Last week we did the Thursday night podcast just so we could catch Angus Taylor's budget reply after the ridiculous budget handed down by Albo and Jim Chalmers last week, that supposedly somehow brilliantly is going to decrease wealth in this country so we can fix up intergenerational inequality in regards to wealth. Not too sure how you make sense of that. Making people poorer, we're actually going to make the bridge between wealth here's the kicker, between old investors who have got a grandfather clause and newer, younger investors who will have to pay through their teeth to become either property investors or even share investors or investors in anything. So with the combined hit on negative gearing and capital gains tax, if you're a business owner, good luck. If you're a renter, good luck. If you are looking to get into investment properties, and you haven't already got them, you're not going to get the grandfather clause, so you won't have the advantage of negative gearing. Good luck. So, the problem with all of these too is the people that do invest in these things are people who have earned their dollars, gone out and worked extra jobs, founded a business, they've paid their taxes already on that money, already paid their taxes, and now the government is double dipping. So when they go and take all their hard work in saving those funds to invest it, whether it's a property or whether it's a business or whether it's a company or whatever the investment is, could be on shares, whatever, the government's coming to get you again. We have the most ridiculous tax system, I think, on the planet. I was looking at a comparison, and Australia's got something like 128 different taxes, and the next closest was 90 on the globe. It is ridiculously overtaxed, and it's ridiculously complex in the way we tax. And despite all those taxes, our government still can't manage to run at least at a break-even mode. They keep driving us further and further and further and further into debt every minute of every day of every week. If you're breathing, our debt's going up. The whole time you're breathing, our debt, our national debt, our state debt, all government debt is just going up in this country, and they keep just taxing us till the hilt. If people are dumb enough to think that Albo is doing anything to help young Australians get in the property market, I've got an acre of land to say you. Got a bridge to say. You believe anything if you believe that. These changes are not there to fix up any inequity between the generations. It's a tax grab. It's a blatant tax grab. It's a blatant promise, and they're going to use this for all their projects. I'm not even going to say they're going to use it to pay down debt. I think they've just run out of other people's money to spend on different projects that they want to put in. So they've got to find a different way to raise money. So what's the easiest way to raise money? These people have never run a business. Let's tax the people that do run a business. And just like every socialist, they will drive the people with the innovation, the entrepreneurial spirit, the ability to create wealth. They'll drive them out of the country. They'll go elsewhere. If they've got the money, and a number of them are already saying it. You see them on X. I've talked to one or two. I know one has already left. He lives in Singapore. He invests in the crypto market, but he saw this coming a while ago. So he's based himself out of not Singapore, I think it's Vietnam. And life is just cheaper. And you don't get taxed as much. You get to keep more of your money. Why not? So he'll come back and he'll visit, but he'll go back there and he won't pay the tax. And food's cheaper, fuel's cheaper, living's cheaper, housing's cheaper, everything's cheaper. So why wouldn't you consider it? And, it's so bad what they put in that budget last week. It is like they're deliberately doing it. And I hate to buy into these conspiracy theories, but really there's an argument out there. I'm not saying this is my argument. There is an argument out there that, the whole replacement theory. So where they're making it easier for people from the subcontinent in particular and the Middle East to come to Australia, buy housing, get all the support, the welfare and whatever. And the theory goes that they will ultimately replace Anglo-Celtic Australians. Now, when our government makes these decisions, that those younger generations of Anglo-Celtic Australians, just out of frustration, desperation, exasperation, say, you know what, I'm better off shifting out of this country and going and living elsewhere. You wonder whether there's some validity to it. If I had the money, which I don't, if I had the money, I'd seriously consider it myself. If I had the money in the business and I can get offshore, right now, I'm not saying I'd do it. I'm saying I'd consider it. And why wouldn't you? If all these memes going around that if you're a business owner or if you invest in wealth, and the government, when you sell that business, so the whole point of developing a business, or many of the major points of developing it, especially if it's a family-owned business, and you get to the time you have had enough and you want to sell up, I mean, that is money you've invested. You pay taxes on all. This is only something I think business people understand. You would have paid taxes on all your returns on the turnover and the profit. Turnover you've generated. You've gone out of there with your own ideas, your own work ethic, your own marketing and promotion, and you've generated enough of a turnover to make a profit, to pay your wages, to pay in your employees' wages, and have enough left over to invest. You're already paying wages. Don't forget, you're collecting tax on your employees' wages to pass to the government. You're paying wages on your profit to go to the government. You're paying all sorts of associated taxes. For example, if you lease a property, you will be paying taxes on that lease to go to the government. They hit you left, right, and centre. Fuel for your cars. You're paying a fuel exercise to go to the government. You're paying through your nose for taxation on various sorts of forms. GST, you're paying tax on that. You spend your entire life, despite you generating that turnover, that wealth, and employing other Australians, you will keep paying tax. And then when you want to sell it up to hopefully have a nest egg to retire in or pass on your kids, they're coming for you again. We are being taxed from the birth to our death. And even when we die, the government's coming for the funds you leave behind for your family. It's insane. People say, oh, you can't call the ALP socialist. Well, maybe we can't. Maybe they're more communist. And if you don't believe that, look at they've just, no, I don't agree with them. But if you live in a free democracy and you want to actually embrace free speech and the right to have an opinion, how can a government declare what was a validly formed political party as a terrorist organisation? And I disagree with them. I disagree with the White Australia Party. I disagree with the National Socialists. But you can have those debates and you can fight them on those debates and you can win those debates. But when you've got to feel where this will cascade to. If our government now can ban a political party of that nature, what's to ban them, for example, to stop them, for example, of banning One Nation? Banning any party that threatens them. All of a sudden we're taxed to death, and all of a sudden we've got opposing parties being banned and potentially leaders jailed and all that. What makes us different then from North Korea, China? What makes us different? What makes us different from any of the Middle Eastern dictatorships, theological dictatorships? Nothing. So we've hit it where we are, and it seems like every couple of months, the government keeps coming either through things like taxation or hate speech laws or laws that can ban sort of organisations, and we just get liberty after liberty after liberty gradually taken away from us. We're going to wake up if we haven't already, we're going to wake up one day and a country of what it used to be like will be gone in its entirety. It's crazy. Last week, the judicial system said any man can say he's a woman. I can be a woman. I can walk into, I can say, my name's Roberta, and I'm going to walk into a female-only space. Hey, I can start playing sport, against other women because I am a woman. That's all apparently you need to say. I'm a woman. So, our judicial system has just thrown out female-only spaces, female rights and privileges. And where are all the feminists on this? You know where they are? They're on the side of the biological man saying he wants to walk into whatever female space he likes. We've got a Prime Minister saying there is no difference between an immigrant and an Australian. Sorry? Yes, there is. I went on this afternoon on my other live stream and, I spoke to the difference about recent Australians and heritage Australians. Heritage Australians being those of us who were raised by Australian parents, as where our lineage goes right back before Federation or even further. There was a particular characteristic, culture, values and beliefs with those heritage Australians that stood right up, for well over, I'd say, our bicentennial, 1988. It was in the 90s that things started to change, especially in the late 90s. So apparently now immigrants don't have to assimilate. They're as dinky-die Aussies as those of us who've been around for, the entirety of by our lineage again, the entirety of Australian history. I mean, my grandparents arrived in South Melbourne just before we became a federation. Sorry, just got to make sure don't get any phone calls while I'm doing all this. So we've had a Twilight Zone sort of week. And in all that, we've had Angus Taylor, and I've got to give him credit. Angus Taylor had his budget reply. Now, I'm going to give him credit on the content of that budget reply. What I'm not going to give him credit on is the delivery. The delivery of that budget reply was like listening to a librarian. That's what I had on last Thursday. If any of you watched that, you would have seen I was probably yawning my head off through the whole thing. That man, sorry guys, just bear with me for a tick here. I'm doing this without my glasses. Oh, here we go. It's end of vibration. Bear with me, nearly there. Do not disturb. Done. Okay. Last Thursday, Angus Taylor, we were all told, was going to deliver a budget reply that was so important. It had his political future as an individual on the line, and it had the political future of the Liberal and National Party coalition on the line. If anybody was hoping for anything, it would have been fire and brimstone. And it's not like he doesn't have any ammunition. Now, his policies were sound. I think overall his policies were quite good. It's something as conservatives we've been screaming out for from the Liberal Party for God knows how long, ever since Turnbull knifed Abbott in the back. The problem is, how can we trust them? People have stopped listening. And even since then, there have been moderates. There's this one that was on the Bolt show tonight, just pathetic moderate in the Liberal Party ranks, a senator, Andrew McLaughlin, I think his name is. He's coming out and having basically behind Taylor's back on the ABC for 9 minutes, having a crack at Taylor about his immigration policy. So then you've got Julian Lesser, confirming he wants the hate speech laws to remain in place. Then you've got Matt Canavan supporting Angus Taylor last night on the Paul Murray show, saying they don't want us to be removed from the Paris Agreement. I mean, what? I mean, this is where are they just preoccupied with their own extinction. Last week, and like I said, a lot of the policies are good, but they needed to be delivered like we're in a war. We are in a war. We're not in a war where there's guns and missiles and all that front lines, but we are in a war of cultures. I don't get why the Liberals can't get that. I think they do, but I think they're always getting torn at each other. I'd hate to be a conservative in the Liberal Party ranks because you're getting attacked by One Nation on one side, the moderates on the other side, and then you've got the ALP and Greens to deal with. It would be an infuriating existence. In fact, if I was a conservative in the Liberal Party, I would have been picking up the phone to Pauline Hanson about 5 weeks ago. Say, can I come over and join? I just don't understand how you can go to a party room with people so diametrically opposed to your points of view on the future of this country. The moderates within the Liberal Party are pathetic. And Pauline Hanson, to her credit, really took aim at Andrew Bragg about this week, which I have to say makes me beg the next question. How on earth could One Nation accept Holly Hughes into their ranks? Holly Hughes was a Susan Ley supporter. She's all on immigration. She's all on the climate nonsense. She's been one of those backstabbing moderates in the background that's brought down decent leaders. She's not a conservative. I don't know enough about the other one. I think she is a conservative, but I'm not too sure. I can't even remember her name, sorry. But I think One Nation's got to be very careful. I know she's just become a member. People have pointed this out. But they did promote her. And James Ashby last night was on Sky News singing her values. I don't see that she's got any values. Not to a conservative party. She's not a conservative. She's a freaking moderate. And, this is where I think One Nation's got to be a little careful. If too many people have jumped on the One Nation train, like me, start seeing too many moderate Liberals jump across onto the One Nation membership and start becoming candidates, you'll see us jumping off pretty quick. We want a conservative party, for example, that wants to get us out of net zero, get us out of the Paris Agreement, get us out of the UN, get us out of the World Health Authority. We want a political party that will cut migration, if not freeze it. Next Tuesday, I'm going to give my own version of a budget reply. On this podcast, I've been publishing and delivering policy that I think probably would outdo Angus Taylor's, but I could at least deliver it with some purpose. What are they going to do about our bulging bureaucracies? Are they going to, take a meat cleaver to it. Forget a razor gang. Take a meat cleaver to it and attack our bureaucracy. First place they could start is the ABC. Sell the bloody thing. Save us $1 billion a year. Cut the NDIS by at least a half, if not 2/3. That is just a rot bloody city program. And everyone who's in that is just rotting the crap out of it. Well, I shouldn't say everyone. There's legitimate people there. But there's an awful lot. And that doesn't – the Indigenous industry, start cutting them down. There's got to be ministry after ministry, department after department, organisation after organisation, run by your bureaucrats and governments that could go tomorrow. We've all, in one of our policies, my policies, that I put up was a department, and I'm going to be inviting them. Hopefully David Limbrick and Jordan Ditloff, if you're listening to this, you're getting an invite tomorrow. I want them to come on the program because one of the concepts we've got is a Department of Liberty. And this is like Doge. We want this is where libertarians, I think, can be great friends of conservatives. Get some conservatives in there, get some libertarians in there, and just take a meat axe to our bureaucracies. Just take a meat axe to it and also address parts of our constitution that needs reviewing. So, for example, a Bill of Rights. Let's get a Bill of Rights into our constitution. I suggested we go further, and that is to become a republic. Start again. Have a new constitution. Do what the Americans did back when they bloody, put what did they do in Boston Harbor? Chucked all the tea bags into the harbor or whatever it was, not the tea bags, the Boston Tea Party, which started the American Revolution against England. I'm not talking about an American Revolution. I'm not talking about going to war, but we need to be able to tear down what we've got and start again. There's a lot of, and that doesn't mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's a lot of good things in our current system that we should retain, but you've got to be able to take a microscope to exactly what we've got that's right, and there's so many things that we've got wrong, and we've got to eliminate what's wrong and make what we've got better. And I think there's only one way you can do that. That's to become a republic, bring in a new constitution, put in a new system. Review everything. Review how many chambers of parliament we should have. Review, a clause there that identifies what Australian culture is all about. Review parity within our system so we don't have three flags, so we don't have an Indigenous chamber in Victoria, New South Wales and South Australia after we all voted against it. So we can have parliaments actually that work for the people instead of opposing people's views. That we can have parliaments that actually are accountable to the people. That we can actually have a national leader, a state leader, head of state, who's voted in by the Australian people, not by some arsehole parliamentarians, politicians that just ignore everything that we want. Make them accountable towards us. Let's have a parliament where we can draw on the best talent, not just rely on appointing pathetic politicians who've never worked a day in their life or run a business, and we end up with the Prime Minister like bloody elbow. If we actually went through this, you could actually have a really strong debate about what works and what doesn't work. And people who are libertarians like David and Jordan and other really good conservatives out there could come in and say, listen, this is what is wrong with where we are. We need, for example, our energy grid. How can we make our energy grid, our resources and all that, the best in the world that services Australians and helps keep our taxation liabilities to an absolute minimum so Australians can actually become wealthy across the board? Now, whether that's through a pay-as-you-go employee's job or whether that's you as developing a business, we've got to be able to set it up so an Australian with some innovation, with some entrepreneurial spirit, and with the desire to make their lives better can do that and be successful. And government should be helping them to be successful, because if they help them to be successful, they can employ more people. That's the way to raise revenue, by building wealth, building productivity, building business, and getting more people into work on higher wages who then will pay more taxes. But they'll be able to be happy to do that then, because it's their country that's built that wealth to give them that job. It's not by taking more taxes out of our pay packets. It's by making more pay packets so you can actually accumulate more taxes through more pay packets, not by increasing taxes. In fact, if you do that, you should be in a position to decrease taxes or look at a taxation system that is much more fairer and much more viable going forward. And there's got to be something, if we do have any new constitution, that says if you bring in a law or you bring in a tax code, you must reduce something to balance that out. We can't just have this red tape and mindless bureaucracy reducing productivity in this country. We need to free our people up so they can be as productive and as wealth generating as they possibly can. We should be actually embracing people in building business, building industry, and creating wealth. That's what we should be doing. And instead we put roadblock after roadblock after bloody roadblock in front of everyone. And the other thing we should be looking at in whatever Bill of Rights is to recognise biological men and women. I mean, this nonsense we've gone too far with, and this all started under bloody Turnbull again. You know, the Snowy Hydro screen was supposed to cost $2 billion, now up to $42 billion. That guy is a walking freaking disaster. He's worse than Kevin Rudd. And Kevin Rudd was a disaster. I mean, we couldn't have had worse prime ministers if we could have picked them, which we did, I suppose, because we elected the bastards. But, you know, Turnbull also opened up traditional marriage for marriage equality. And from there, the LGBTQI, the radical elements, this is not the normal gay community, I'm talking the radical elements, which even the normal gay community doesn't like, have now just flooded through that gate. And now we got these trans whatever playing in female sports. Funny how it's all one way, isn't it? It's always the transitional men going into female sports and not the other way around. I've always found that curious. You don't find any biological women who've transitioned into being men trying to force their way into male areas. Or maybe the men just don't care. But men with wives, with mothers, with daughters, with sisters, we all should be concerned about this. All of us. And if we're going to accept it, well, then we deserve everything that's coming our way. But women aren't accepting it. And, you know, they've got the courage as recently to go to court and take this on. And then our judicial system doesn't back them up. And now neither do our politicians. Apparently, your laws are legislated by your politicians. The politicians could solve this problem tomorrow, or at least in a sitting parliament. Introduce a bill, get it passed in both houses, it's done and dusted. And then the judges have to respect that law. The fact is, because Gillard put in the clause to remove the gender of woman out of the Sexual Discrimination Act, is we're now in this ridiculous position. Well done, Julia. You know, I will not listen to this, man. You know, what a bitch. Seriously. So we always knew she was a bitch, but now we've got the thing. What is it with ALP women? I mean, why are they such mean girls? I mean, that one for housing. I mean, talk about a dimwit. I mean, we have a housing crisis, and all she does is she does TikTok videos. One the other day was when she was pretending to fold up washing, and you knew she just could never done it before. And then the other day, she was in the front seat of a car like a teenage girl doing a TikTok video bitching about this or that. I mean, she's a paid minister who would be on 300 to 400 grand a year. And the best she can do is a TikTok video from a laundry or the front seat of a car. I mean, where are we going with this? And some of these TikTok videos, seriously. I mean, these people get paid huge amounts. These people pay social media managers huge amounts of money to produce the rubbish that we see every day. And it is utter garbage. And Albo got pissed off today because business people have actually got a media, an organic media social media campaign where they're all got Albo as their business partner, which I thought was gold. So we are in a twilight zone across so many facets of our country. It's just insane. And now we've got, and listen, there'll be those that disagree with me on this and those agree. I don't care. You know, I know there's a lot of what they call grifters and all that. They're supposed to get themselves near popular people and get the clicks and the income. If you want to shout me a coffee, feel great. I've got that on my thing. But that's if you want to reward it. I've got my other business to worry about. Doesn't make me a lot of dollars. If you want to shout me a coffee, you can. But I'm not going to be latching on to someone who's got a high profile so I can sell more T-shirts, more videos, more books, tell you how to live. I provide my opinion. If you agree with it, great. If you disagree with it, great. And one of my opinions is I think that this stupidity from Avi, Yemeni, and Monica Schmidt about forming these other parties is going to backfire spectacularly. People are, especially the key to Victoria in this coming November election is not to have all these stupid parties get on. ALP aren't going to get rid of the group voting card. They're just not going to do it because they benefit from it. What will happen is all those ones that are considering voting for One Nation will get put off by this. And the Victorian election is going to be decided in the outer metropolitan seats of Melbourne, not in the regional seats. The regional seats would vote national or whatever. You might win, say, for example, in Bendigo. If One Nation, if we go in there with silly stuff, people there are not going to jump on board with this Avi Yemeni and Monica Schmidt stuff. And what you're going to do is potentially split the centre-right vote, and guess who gets back in? ALP. And in fact, I'm pretty confident. I hope I'm so wrong. God, I hope I'm wrong. But I'm pretty confident in saying I can't see a way that the ALP loses in November. God, I hope I'm wrong. God, I hope I'm wrong. I'm praying I'm wrong. We just don't need another 4 years. I'm not too sure they can cause much more damage, but you never say that about the ALP because whenever you say that, they prove you wrong. So they probably could cause us more damage. And the other part is some of the stupid things that they've already put in place, like the Indigenous Chamber of Parliament. If you don't defeat that at the next election, then maybe future governments won't be prepared to take it on because the polling groups, the feedback groups will tell them you can't do that, you'll lose your election. And that's the way a lot of these politicians dance. And, all the polling groups and stuff, if they tell them you can't go a certain course of action, they'll just won't do it. Which leads us, that's what led to, obviously, Angus Taylor and Matt Canavan saying, no, we'll stay in Paris. We'll stay in the Paris Agreement. Because one of two things, the polling groups will probably tell them that's the case, or worse, they're doing that to keep the moderates within their rank happy. They don't want to upset the apple cart too much because they have actually brought in some good conservative policy. But, is it time for the Liberal LNP to have a civil war in their own ranks and say, you moderates, if you want to be a teal, there's a teal party there. We want to be a conservative party, and we'll work with One Nation. Just become a conservative party like the Liberal Party used to be. Just all insane what we're going through at the moment. So all nutty. We are living, like I say, in a twilight zone where you just look around and go, and then I just take my dog out for a walk and the world makes sense again. So if all this stuff does get you down, here it comes. See, get one of these. They keep you happy. We're not going for a WALK tonight. His ears spooked up because I said the magic word. bit too cold, windy tonight, and so we'll stay indoors in front of the heater, have a nice meal, watch a bit of the footy shows or some movie after all of this. So, we are in an insane world, but next Tuesday, so I've been doing this for, I think it's nearly 12 months now with this podcast. It's been going for a while, ever since Albo won his election. So we're probably at the 12-month stage. So I've been announcing my own policy because I just wanted to show it's not that hard. You know, these guys get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. They've all got their employees, their departments, their consultants. God knows how much we pay them. And they come up with crap. They just come up with out-and-out crap. You know, so maybe we should all be, I know see Scott Challenge done this. I looked at his policy page. I thought it was overall fantastic. There's a few things I want to get him on the show to have a chat about, but I think overall we're in furious agreement on so many areas. If you haven't had a look at it, look at the One Nation policy page. Fantastic. There's no equivocation there. They're taking us out of Paris. They're taking us out of the World Health Organization. They're taking us out of the United Nations. So, you know, I'm in furious agreement with them. And this is where the Liberals, I just don't get it. I don't understand what they don't get. Their polling numbers are going down. They've just got smashed in South Australia. They nearly got smashed in the pen. They just got smashed in Farah. I don't know why they're not getting the message. I mean, I think they've got part of the message, but they need to go further. If you're going to go, it's like being Labor light. Now they've become One Nation light. They need to actually either join forces or really convert their policy platform to challenge One Nations, and then maybe they're a chance. But if you're going to be One Nation light and you're going to have the likes of Jane Hume, Andrew Bragg, Julian Lesser, that McLaughlin or whatever his name is in the Senate, you're pushing shit uphill. You know, you're just not going to get there. No matter how noble your efforts might be as a leader, Angus and Matt, you're just not going to get there. So anyway, time to share. Let's have a look at a bit of social media. I haven't had much up, but let's see what we've got. We do this. For those who haven't been with me before, we do this most weeks. Online mockery. How good's that? Let's have a look.
Reaction to those broken promises in the federal budget keeps getting worse for Anthony Albanese, who is now being widely mocked on social media.
The Prime Minister tried to laugh off the online ridicule as his Treasurer insists taxpayers will be better off, but Australians aren't buying it.
Not at all.
The Prime Minister a prime meme target, an AI online onslaught depicting Anthony Albanese as an effective partner in small businesses, claiming he'll grab 47% of the capital gains when they sell.
I think some of them are very flattering, and I thank them for picking very nice photos of me.
Bathroom specialist Mick Spence turned Anthony Albanese into a plumbing partner, believing his profits were being drained.
I just feel that the harder you work and the more that you put into your business, the more that you get taxed.
But the Treasurer argues the real budget picture is different.
The existing generous concessions and carve-outs for small business in the capital gains tax system are not being changed.
Releasing Treasury modelling showing the average capital gains tax will increase by just 2% from 19.3 to 21.4%, insisting not everyone will be worse off.
Some people would be better off under these changes.
The opposition doesn't buy that.
They are under assault. I mean, the Labor Party clearly doesn't like small business.
Jim Chalmers has accused these people of avoiding their tax obligations. How dare he? How dare he?
As Angus Taylor says, he is open to work.
How bad's that? Jane Hume's taken off Greta Thunberg. How dare you? How dare. I mean, that's the problem with the Liberal Party right there. Good messaging, and then Jane Hume gets on and ruins it. Ha! Lefty tears Buddha. Piers Morgan, idiot. Oh. In the proper polls. Rick has been having a meltdown lately. Rick is, if you don't follow him, I don't follow him. He gets in my feed, but he's just an out-and-out silly old bastard. He's an ALP acolyte, and I'm sure he's Albo's dad, but if you get him in your feed, I don't know why. Let's go into our bookmarks. Let's see what I've saved. If anything, I think I have actually a couple. I don't know. It's been a week. No, it's been less than a week. It's been well over a week since I last did share it. Here we go. It's taken its great ever time here. Come on. At last. Let's see what I've saved. Apparently, according to the Canberra bubble, the use of the word mass migration is not acceptable. This is what this Andrew McLaughlin on the Andrew Bolt show said. I think it's Andrew McLaughlin. I'll take. I'll see if I can find out. Andrew McLaughlin. MP. He looks a dork as well. Senator Andrew McLaughlin. This is him. Sorry, guys, just double checking this. Yeah, he's just banging on about thing. I'll give you a quick look at what he is. This is this guy. I'll give you a look at who he is in a minute. So that's him. Total dweeb. A Liberal senator has condemned his own party for creating two types of community members by pushing taxpayer migrants off welfare benefits and raised concerns with Angus Taylor's use of the term mass migration in his budget reply. This is a guy sitting within the LNP party. Backbencher Andrew McLaughlin broke ranks on immigration policy, raising deep concerns that the coalition's new policy would cause damage amongst diaspora communities. So if you don't know what a diaspora community is, that's where you have a whole bunch of Indians or Chinese in a similar suburb. So, and they cling to each other rather than totally assimilating like Tony Burke doesn't want them to do, where people would be unable to retain their previous citizenship if they choose to become Australian citizens. What the bloody hell's wrong with that? These are the people inside the LNP. Under Taylor's proposal, tax-paying permanent migrants will have to become citizens to act, which is what it should be. The opposition leader said the coalition would claw back billions of dollars by cutting welfare, including the National Disability Insurance Scheme, Job Seeker, Youth Allowance, and the Family Tax Benefit for non-citizens. And nor should they be getting those benefits. For many permanent migrants, this would require them to renounce their birthplace if dual citizenship is not permitted. Well, if they want the benefits of Australia, then they've got to embrace Australia. There's a part down here I think he's got in the moment. Here he goes. Remember, this is an LNP senator. Tell me the difference between him and a Labor one. He said the budget reply speech may not have been the wisest place to kick off this important discussion. The use of terms such as mass migration adopts the language and tone of the hard right and its fellow travellers, he says. Migrant communities should not be made to feel they are not to blame for a perceived need by the coalition to cut benefits currently available to them. He said migrants worked hard and paid their taxes, and that there seemed to be a premise undermining the policy that migrants did not deserve certain benefits. No, it never said that. It said non-citizens. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Cannot accept new citizens to vote for the coalition when they're being made to feel like the cause of the challenges of our economy and every other societal ill. Well, he goes, you cannot expect new citizens. Well, Angus Taylor said if you're a new citizen, you're fine. So this is one of his own undermining him. He warned that the traditional centre-right thinking was grounded in seeking to attract the best and brightest in the world. Here we go. When they join us, Yeah, it just goes on. So anyway, that is the LMP. Can you believe it? And there's another one clip with Julian. So you had that one with just Jane Yu. And these people they're going to kill the LMP. It's just as thing as that. So let's see what else we can find. Here's an interesting one. Liberal Senator is another example of those within the LNP undermining. So Angus Taylor came out and said they were going to change the Sexual Discrimination Act to make sure it supported biological women. Fantastic. One Nation have been saying that for a while. Liberal Senator Andrew Bragg's silence on the Giggle versus Tickle court decision is deafening. While women's only space is under attack from transgender ideology, he said nothing. Whether it's protecting women's spaces or children from gender surgery, Senator Bragg and his fellow party members have always taken the side of radical trans ideology. That should read some of his fellow party members, not all. The kind of weakness in the Liberal Party is why they never fixed the law in their 9 years in government. That's true. The Liberal Party didn't fix it then, and they can't be trusted to fix it now. That's true. One Nation will again move legislation to amend the Sexual Discrimination Act and ensure women can enjoy safe spaces and sports that exclude biological men. I mean, the Conservatives within the Liberal Party have got to decide at some stage whether their coexistence with the moderates within their party can continue. Here's a video that's done the rounds. Have a listen. This actually struck me. And like I said, I do miss this Australia. This video was from 1988. So just a street interviews by actually the ABC. When it said it seemed like a different and much better country than it is today, it was. I had a big spiel on this. I'll go into it in a minute. And these are just kids I've interviewed, young people they've interviewed on the streets. Listen to their accents. We've actually lost this.
Hey, it's sisters.
Why?
They annoy you.
Why?
They squiggle.
What really gets up your nose?
Big slimy wogs.
I'm a wog.
Early buses. You think you're on time and they've already left.
The service in Myers. yes.
Pollution. Stinks.
TV cameras. Brothers. They fight with you all the time.
Love.
A lot of terrible songs that are played on a lot of shows.
Public transport.
My brother, he thinks he's the boss of the house.
Flies.
Unfriendly people.
I've got 3 sisters and they're all younger than me. They always stir me.
Being late when we're meant to be there 5 minutes earlier.
That's our train.
Well, don't let us hold you up. Off you go.
That's amazing. When I listen to that, I've gone, oh my God. And that accent used to be all over the place. That kid who said there are my sisters who stir me. I haven't heard that in so long. What is actually really thing, if you do the confronting, if you do the maths behind it, 1988, most of those kids would be 10, 12, some older. So if they were, say, 10, which is pretty young, they're probably more like 12, but let's say they were 10. So that was 38 years ago. So most of these kids in this thing would now be in their 50s, some of them pushing 60. So at that time, I was 25. It was just for me, it was something about what we've lost as a country. Genuine question, Monica. I did a special invite on there for Monica. I'm a pretty big, I'll be honest, I'll put my hand up. I'm a pretty big critic of Monica. I reckon she changes her stance on a lot of things all the time. She's never consistent. But genuine question of the so-called nationalist. Am I Australian? I was born here, but my parents weren't. Well, on that, I would say to, this is all pretty old stuff. I would say to Monica and others like her, there's different types of Australians. I don't think that's a controversial thing. Some may think it is. I don't. And in my view, and I went over this today, you've got your heritage Aussies, which goes back to, like me, if you were raised by parents who lived through World War II, lived through the Depression, came back, started families, had sons who served in the military and the police. I had a brother that went over to Vietnam, for example. I had another brother in the police. I had a number of brothers who also served in the military but didn't serve, and thank God, in any theatre of war. I've got my grandparents came across to Australia in 1901, arrived in South Melbourne just before Australia became a federation. So at the exhibition buildings in Melbourne. So they were there to witness history, Australia becoming a nation. So you go back through all my lineage, and we have people that fought, relatives that fought in World War I, World War II, helped build this nation, started businesses, had big families, which is totally different today. I come from a family of 10. Mum's side was a family of 8. Dad's side was a family of 11. Big families were common back then. So that young fella there talking about how his 3 sisters used to stir him, that's not uncommon. But you talk about if you had a family of 4 today, that's uncommon. There's not many families that have 4 kids. And I deal with young families all the time. 4 kids, 3 kids is a rarity. If you get more than 2 now. Back in my day, 2 kids was considered small, nearly unheard of. So, one thing and this is where Sam Badford from the Two Worlds podcast speaks about it a bit lately, and that's what's caused the debate about what is an Australian. So for me, there's recent Australians that have just come out to Australia probably just before or just after 9/11, and they make up a lot of what we see claimed to be mass immigration. Not all that immigration is bad. There's a fair percentage of it that we could argue doesn't respect Australia or its values. Then you have the post-World War II immigration, where, the Greeks and Italians who came out here and over time assimilated beautifully in the Australian culture. You also had the Vietnamese refugees who we took in after the Vietnam War, we should have. We fought in that war. With the Yanks pulled out, so we probably had an obligation there to assist those that we could. I don't agree that we had the same obligation, for example, with the Afghan refugees or anyone from the Middle East, because the Western world got attacked at 9/11, so we responded to that. Not so much in Vietnam. So there's a bit of nuance behind all that. But then obviously you had your heritage Aussies, and they were the ones that were born and raised by generations of Australians who went, for some of them went back to the First Fleet. For many of us, they were Australians like my grandparents who came across here and were free settlers who came down and settled in and looked for a new life. So that went on for, 200 whatever years it was. 1988 was our bicentennial. 10 years later, I'd say the late 90s, so 1998 going forward, those things changed. So there's nothing wrong, I think, with putting different categories of Australians. But what I think the problem is getting to is where what I would call recent Australians are lecturing heritage Australians about, cop it on the chin. You don't know what it is. I'm an Aussie, you're an Aussie. They don't understand what heritage Australians have been forced, not asked, no one was ever asked, been forced to give up. So that was, if you want to have a look at it, that was the content of my conservative Bible read and Bob rant this afternoon. So you can go to there. So let's have another look at a few more. Just had to get that rant in again. We'll go into, there's not much in the bookmarks, so we'll share again. We'll get out of there. Been doing a lot of actually interesting. The bookmarks are good because one thing I've been doing. If you've got it, you should get it. So I've been collecting musical videos as well. I've got a whole bunch of them now. So at night when I've got nothing on, I'll put these on. I don't have to watch them. I can have them in the background, so you can get some great music. So. Smooth operator. Shouldn't be singing, should I? Sorry. Let's go back home and see what we can find. Some recent stuff. Alleged Anzac Day RSL vandals hide from cameras outside court. Headscarves. Well, that definitely looks like a female. It's a female. What are they? 2 women accused of spray painting messages including "fuck Anzac" and "kill the troops" on Melbourne's RSLs on Anzac Day have hidden. What cowards? They've hidden behind masks and umbrellas outside court. So they've desecrated memorials honouring Australians who stood up and faced bullets, faced enemies, put their lives at risk, and these bastards, I shouldn't say bastards, I should say bitches, are too cowardly to show their faces. No doubt indoctrinated by our education system. No doubt. What else have we got? That's that one. I haven't seen that today. What's she done now? Let's have a look. Let's see what our
The Allen government is being accused of doing a dodgy deal at the 11th hour to keep the state's debt under the dreaded $200 billion mark. The Auditor General is now investigating a new 40-year agreement with the Lottery Corporation as competitors claim they were never given the chance to bid for the contract.
No.
It was a state budget bombshell, a $1.145 billion jackpot for the Allen government from the Lottery Corporation to operate exclusively in Victoria for 40 more years, much longer than the usual decade-long deal. The next day, the Premier declared
it went through a tender process,
but later changed her description.
There was a process.
Because there was, in fact, no tender. In a Budget Estimates Committee meeting today, Liberal John Pizzuto asked why and was warned.
Please do not put words into the mouths of
No, the Minister...
This is not law and order. Just ask the questions.
The Minister's response?
The advice I received was that an off-market process was the best process to extract the greatest value.
This was a dodgy deal used to prop up Labor's budget, to keep net debt just under $200 billion. And as a consequence of that, Victorian taxpayers may have been left shortchanged.
A competitor, the Lottery Office, says to our knowledge no other operator was invited to engage in or bid for the Victorian licence. We believe arrangements of this scale should be subject to a transparent, competitive process. The Victorian Auditor General's Office says it's worthy of investigation, announcing it will examine if the public lottery licence extension optimised value for the state. Its findings are likely within the next few months, but it doesn't have the power to cancel the deal or force the government to reassess. It can only give recommendations.
I welcome the Auditor General looking at these matters.
Paul Dowsley, 7 News.
Of course they do.
The Allen government...
I mean, you can't have a tender process. If you don't have the tender process, you don't know what else is out there. You know, so if you put in at a tender process, you get several companies maybe bidding instead of one. If they know there's no tender process, they can put up what they do. So to say that idiot is saying you get more value without that process, what a moron. It's just typical. It's just another example of where ALP, and this is where there is a difference between the Liberals and the ALP, is the ALP have just not got any people who've run businesses before. At least in the Liberal Party ranks, you do have them. They're still not great, but you do have them. What else? One state has banned 30. Oh, yeah, that's all they ever do, ban people. Listen to Piers Morgan. I don't know how many of you like him, but listen to him here against, a woman. Can't yell at a woman, can't bully a woman, but listen to him.
English girls, we should not have sympathy for it, and at the same time...
Nobody said that! What are you talking about?
Have sympathy for what's going on with...
That's a young woman who's there talking about defending British girls from the rape gangs in England, and Piers Morgan that screams at her and then goes on to defend those people that are fighting against her to expose the rape gangs.
Nobody said that.
Do you have sympathy?
What are we doing?
Do you have sympathy for the young English girls that have been assaulted? Do you have sympathy?
Sorry.
So now you're stuttering.
And that person, that arsehole laughing in the background is a guy called Cenk Uygur from the, I can't pronounce his surname right, for the Young Turks. If you've ever listened to him, he's a vile human being. That's who Piers Morgan platforms all the time.
You've just exposed yourself.
You know what? I have a no stupid people rule on panel members for this show.
Which is bizarre beyond belief, because he's had stupid person after stupid person on that show, and Cenk is one of the most stupid people you can find, one of the most putrid people you can find. He has him on regularly. So he's had some of the big, Dave Smith, another moron. He's had Anna Kasparian, another moron. So he's had plenty of stupid people on his show. And by the way, Piers Morgan himself is kind of stupid.
And sometimes we drop below it. The way you started this panel and the way you've ended it suggests that you shouldn't have passed our bar, because frankly, you've been not only stupid and ill-informed.
So So he's just called a woman he disagreed with stupid and ill-informed because he disagrees with her.
And told a bunch of lies. But then right at the end, you've driven one of our regular panel members
went out by
to
herself.
leave because you told disgusting
She
lies.
went out by English girls. We should not have sympathy for it. And at the same time...
Nobody said that. What are you talking?
He's such a wanker, Piers Morgan. Don't know how many of you watch him, but I can't stand the man. Let's see what else we got. Is there anything else worth commenting on before I leave you good people? Oh, Michelle Obama's coming to Melbourne. Oh, that'll help that'll help the state. Pauline Angus sitting in a tree. I don't know what that's going on about. Actually, okay, Rowan Dean says that the Australian people are dumb for voting Albanese in the first time. I agree. Even dumber voting for him the second time. And now he's saying he wants a third term. How dumb will we be? You get what you vote for. It's our fault. Let's listen to Rowan.
Albanese government, you get what you vote for. We voted twice for the Albanese government. Albanese is now saying, oh, I want a third term. I may as well sit back. And who can blame him? Because the Australian people are so dumb. We voted him in the first time. Dumber because we voted him in the second time. How dumb will we be? We will find out whether we vote him in for a third time. Because it is our fault. It is our fault. We ignore the lessons of history. It is our fault. You get the government you deserve. We now have one of the stupidest, laziest, most inept governments in the Western world, and we deserve it because we were so dumb as to go down the path we went down, in my opinion. Albanese government, you get what you vote for. We voted. I
actually disagree with Rowan there. Albanese got voted in on, I think from memory, 32 first party preferences. So that stupid preference system, most Australians didn't vote for Albo to be our Prime Minister. Nearly 70% of us didn't. So why do we deserve Albo? People will argue blue in their face in support of this preference system. I think it's a joke. Just the recent poll, the combined vote between One Nation and the Liberals, the LNP, is nearly 50% first party preferred. And yet, after preferences get distributed in these polls, and they base that on historical data, the ALP win again. So that to go from, if any political party secures nearly 50% of the vote, they normally win in an absolute landslide, even with preferences. So how come when the two centre-right, or as the left like to call them, far-right parties, have nearly 50% of the vote, can they still not win on preferences? Our system, there was something, that is wrong on that. Holly Valance, I did write a comment on this. Smart lady, gorgeous lady.
And have you always been a right-of-centre person, or are you a conservative? Where are you politically?
I would say that everyone starts off as a lefty and then wakes up at some point after you start either making money, working, trying to run a business, trying to buy a home, and then realise what crap ideas they all are.
And have you always been a right-of-centre person, or are you a conservative? Where are you politically?
I put it on X today. Where was she in my 20s and 30s? The smart and gorgeous. Scotty's on. Australian has an ethnic identity. We own the second way brand. We also have an Indigenous Australian ethnic generation, blah, 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 blah. Already had my comment on that today. I think I'll leave that for where it was. Australia needs this. Australia needs this immediately. Wales moves to criminalise political lies as 6 nations consider similar measures to hold politicians accountable. Yes and no. I don't. It's a bit like hate speech laws. Who's going to decide what's a lie? Who's going to decide what's hate speech? I think over time, like we've discovered with Albo, lies get things. There's a bit of. I can understand both arguments. Well, that's a good mark. Let's have a look at that. That's for the Tassie Devils, eh? This is their VFL team, obviously. A pretty good mark. Pretty good mark. Wish I could say back in my heyday I'd do something like that, but I didn't have that sort of leap. The under, back for, Is there anything else? A liberal Muslim threatens to send thugs after a Christian man. Yeah. My internet is just not working. Or my mouse isn't working, one of these. Find if we can get one last thing to talk about. Candace Owens. He said, oh, yeah, of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to interview Hunter Biden. Oh, my God. Something I really don't. Truly fascinating, according to Marjorie Taylor Greene. Hunter Biden is a despicable human being that has abused women. Read about what he did with his brother's widow and their daughter. How you could interview him beyond that is gone beyond me. This has gone too far, Scott Pendlebury's thing, but good luck to those Collingwood supporters who are going to be celebrating it. Morning edition, the Florida Man. What the hell is this race? Now let's have a listen.
Children have been raped, and rather than people just focusing on the fact that these children have been raped, they're talking about Islamophobia, racism, and all of this. Using the example that white men rape in this country is like saying, oh my gosh, Nigerians are raping so much in Nigerians. White men are the majority in this country, so yes, they are going to make up the statistics of men raping. But when we're talking about grooming gangs, yes, it is Asian Muslim men. We're not saying it's all men. We're not saying it's all men. What I'm trying to say is, if someone raped your daughter, you would not like someone to come to you talking about ethnicity, race.
Yeah, I had that before. She gets up and walks out, the white chick. She couldn't handle the pressure. She was out of the kitchen. Oh, God, now, what am I doing? I hope I'm sharing that all with you still. I don't think I am. Oh, my God. I'm sharing the wrong tab. Sorry, guys. Oh, my God. I need I need someone who can manage my podcast. Anyway, listen, that's probably a good point to break up. So sorry, everyone. Stop sharing. Yeah, I've just gone through all those stories and I had you on my bookmark for the music. So you're probably wondering what the hell I was talking about. Anyway, go back to the rant. I had a good rant. So hopefully you'll enjoy that. I really got to get a producer. So one day I'll be earning so much money I can have a producer and we can get these things right. But for now, you got to take the old cheapo version. So from me, my boy JJ, God bless your kids, God bless your grandkids, God bless your pets, God bless your country. Let's get it back again, and I'll see you next week. See you, bye.